A medium in the 20th century had people from the afterlife come into the room where she was sitting, materialize in full body, and speak to their loved ones in the room. They even hugged and kissed. Her sessions were so remarkable that she was tried as a witch under an archaic law and put into prison for a time because the jury hearing about her sessions agreed she was bringing dead people back into the room to speak. In this series of videos, I present actual transcripts of testimonies in which people describe their loved ones now living in the afterlife, materializing, speaking to them, and embracing them. They had no doubt it was their loved ones in the room. Hello, I'm Dr. R. Craig Hogan, President of the Afterlife Research and Education Institute and Seek Reality Online. I'm the author of 8 books with the evidence you will come to the end of this life, but you will never die. Helen Duncan was a 20th century British materialization medium. Duncan sat in a cabinet in a room that was lit with red light, and people whose bodies were dead materialized in full body, spoke to their loved ones who were sitting in the room, embraced them, and even kissed them. She revealed military secrets from dead military personnel that no one could have known except the person in spirit. The British military was afraid she would reveal things about their secret operations during World War II. So to silence her, Helen Duncan was tried for witchcraft and found guilty. The courts agreed she was materializing dead people who spoke about military secrets. In this series of videos, I present narrations of the actual transcripts of testimonies by 5 people who sat with Helen Duncan and testified under oath that their loved ones materialized in the room, had intimate conversations with them, and touched and kissed them. One person who testified was Jane Mary Rust, a midwife nurse. She swore under oath that her reports of her experiences, speaking with her deceased husband, mother, and aunt, were true. As the materialized loved ones came near to her, touched her, and allowed her to touch them, they showed all the physical, mental, and memory characteristics of the people she knew. This is a narration of Jane Mary Rust's testimony.
Had you any doubt about it being your husband?
No doubt whatsoever.
How close up to him were you?
As close as I am to this.
Did he speak to you?
He spoke to me.
Did you recognize his voice?
I did. I was perfectly certain.
Did he say anything to you in particular that struck you as of importance?
Just spoke about the family. He said that he was always with me, and he would be on the other side waiting for me. He would never leave me until I joined him.
Had he altered in appearance at all?
No, sir. He had not altered, just a wee bit thinner, perhaps, than he was in health. But my husband was very ill for 3 years before he went. He said, "Put your hand in mine, dear." So I gave him my right hand. He took hold of it with his right and clasped my hand very tightly. It was flesh and blood, was it? It was very cold, my lord, but it was his hand. I held it firmly. I felt the knuckles. He suffered with rheumatism, my lord, and I felt the knobbly knuckles.
Did he kiss you?
He did, sir, right on the mouth. My mother came out and stood on the side of the cabinet. I wanted to be close to her because I had never been so close before. I wanted to get right in contact. I said, "Mother, you are not going back without kissing me. Are you this time?" She said, "Come here, my child." She beckoned me to her side. She made me stand, and I was standing facing her. She turned me to the sitters and patted my shoulder and said, "My loving daughter introduced me," sort of thing.
Did you touch her?
I did. I kissed her.
Did she put her arms on you, or did you put your arms on her?
She put her arm around my shoulders.
Tell me a little about her voice. What was her voice like?
It was her natural voice. My mother had a mole in the hollow of her chin, and another over the left eyebrow. And without that, it would not be my mother. And she had it there, and I was satisfied. I got as close to my aunt as I got to my mother and my husband. She said to me words in Spanish. I replied in Spanish. It was Gibraltarian Spanish. It was not the Spanish, possibly, that they speak in Spain itself, but the Gibraltarian Spanish.
Did you recognize the figure that spoke to you?
She was my aunt, my mother's sister, and I recognized her because she is a replica of my own mother. They were always taken for twins, but they were not twins.
Jane Mary Russ testified that her husband, mother, and aunt materialized, spoke to her, touched her, and allowed her to touch them. Only a person who knew the loved one in spirit could testify that it was they who appeared. These testimonies are further evidence you will come to the end of this life, but you will never die. You can listen to other testimonies in the links on the screen or in the descriptions below.